Hello, everybody, and welcome to another inspiring interview with me, Claire Westwood, the Chief Creative Maverick, here to activate and illuminate luminaries all over the world to fully express themselves and make their difference in the world, because we really need it in the world at the moment. More conscious, creative people living their purpose and making a difference. And I'm really delighted to have the beautiful Romilly with me today, who is, I describe her as my creative bestie. And I always talk about how I know the people that I'm talking to. And Romilly and I met because I think I was looking for abstract, vibrant art online and found various things and got guided to Romilly's website and Instagram and realized that she lived in the same city as me, and sent her a message on Instagram and said, "Hey, I really love your art," or something like that. "Love all the color. Do you want to meet for coffee?" And we met for coffee, and we've been kind of best creative buddies ever since, which has been a joy. So my first message to you, the lovely audience, is if you think you might want to hang out with somebody, send them a message, because they might just be somebody that becomes really important in your life. And I also decided, I was trying to decide what earrings to wear today, and these are handmade by Romilly with my name on them. And then this is a piece of art by Romilly as well on my lounge wall. And then this is also a little collaged piece by Romilly. So I'm kind of she's infiltrated my my lounge and my jewelry collection as well. So Romilly, it's so lovely to have you here today.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. And yeah, our coffees have continued ever since, haven't they?
They have pretty much every week in term time. And yeah, we have a coffee, we talk about life and our visions, we go and look at art, or sometimes in the summer we sit in the sunshine as well. It's really nice.
Yay.
So,
can't wait for that.
Yeah, I know. That would be nice. So yeah, so we were talking before the recording about where we wanted to start with this, because the previous conversations I've really gone back to people's childhoods, and I'm lately thinking, do you know, we could go into something a bit more juicy and in a bit more depth if we shortened it. So my previous interviewee, Dr. Denise Taylor, said, "Can I just start from the age of 60?" And so that was a kind of a sign to me to go, oh, this is interesting. She wants to talk about this very particular few years that she's had since she was 60. So I was talking to Romilly about this, and Romilly has decided that a really good place to start would be relatively recently, where something happened in her personal life that ignited a curiosity in her. And exactly what it was shall remain a secret. However, it was a point at which she decided to make some changes and do some investigation. So do you want to explain like what it was in you that changed, and how you followed like your guidance?
So without, I'm not going to talk about what actually happened, because it's too personal, I think, and it won't, you know. Anyway, but I'll tell you the gist of it, and that was that something happened that created a kind of fracture in my relationship with my husband, and it opened up a whole world of stuff for me, basically. So from the outside, something that looked horrible that happened actually was a really powerful change for me, and it started with. It sort of started well, to begin with, it all began with an intuitive hit, which I would have said prior to that I wasn't a very intuitive person. I always knew that I was quite good at connecting to other people and could sort of like sense, I felt like I could sense other people, what was going on with them, but I wouldn't have said that my intuition was strong. And this thing happened, which basically I wouldn't have known about had it not been for a crazy intuitive hit, where I literally woke up in the middle of the night and was like, I think this thing's happened. And anyway, it turned out it had happened, and everything got turned upside down basically in my life. I was just about to move to a house. We lived in Bristol, and we were about to move to a house in the countryside, and we were supposed to have exchanged on our house the day before Christmas, and this was New Year's Day. And basically we pulled out at the absolute last minute, and had everything gone according to plan of how it was supposed to run, we would have already exchanged. That wouldn't have been possible. And yeah, everything got turned upside down, and it sort of cracked open. It cracked me open, really, I suppose. So it really made me look hard at the choices I was making and where I was. Made me look at my beliefs and where I was acting out of sort of obligation and that sense of just without consciousness, I think. So acting through, oh, this is what happens next in life. This is what you do next. These, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it sort of created this, it was like an unraveling in our relationship, but also like an unraveling of it just got me to look at everything. It got me to look at everything and reassess and begin making decisions and choices from my intuition, and also from just, it was the process of learning to listen inwards instead of, acting on what I thought somebody else wanted me to do, or to be somebody else. So yeah, crazy.
And so what kind of techniques or strategies, or what did you actively do or not do in order to connect more with yourself or explore your intuition?
Well, so I'd say that I started working with a wonderful coach called Lacey Young. That was one of the things I did pretty straight away. And she got me doing like sort of exercises, really simple exercises of like, what's your yes, what's your no? Because I was that sort of lost in myself where I was like, well, I don't know. And I would,
And that was about tuning into yourself and feeling it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So lots of stuff of trying to connect inwards through noticing what my body was doing as well. So noticing what I was feeling where, just bringing that greater awareness through to myself. So that was the sort of first thing. But then a few months later, I signed up to do Whitney Freya's, it was then called a Creatively Fit Coaching Qualification, CCSE, which was absolutely amazing. It was a year-long course, I suppose, like training you to lead, to guide other people, to coach other people through intuitive art, effectively, art experiences. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And it was really, permission giving to create whatever you wanted to create. And I just sort of started doing things that I knew I wanted to do, that previously I might have thought, oh, I shouldn't do that, that's quite expensive. With that sort of, all that sort of stuff was going on. So
like making yourself and your needs important.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was an interesting process, and there was a lot in the Creatively Fit coaching training we did. There were lots of sort of inner journeys, and so it was using creativity to find that connection, and then supporting you in being able to lead other people there too, which was very exciting.
I haven't done that. I haven't done that particular training, but I know when I moved to Bristol and then got stuck in lockdown, I was following a woman called Alexis Cohen online, and she opened up, a year-long golden portal, it was called then. And so I ended up doing a lot of intuitive art and creativity over lockdown. And the one thing, I loved it for connecting with myself, but also bypassing my brain, because quite often when we've got things to think about or decisions to make or things going on in life, we're trained to go straight into our head and try and think it through and analyze it and look for solutions. And there's so much happening down here. And I've found art to be one of the best, intuitive art and being guided by somebody really expert. And I have a different intuitive art mentor now, but to really get me to bypass that bit and go straight through my body and onto a piece of paper. And now I've got those skills, like I use it all the time. But at that point I was like, oh, this is so amazing to be able to think from somewhere much lower down, and also just to create some art and go, I don't know what this is, and then use other skills to sort of, the analysis almost like comes in when you're looking at the art. It doesn't come in when you're thinking the problem through initially. So yeah, it's a beautiful skill to have, I think.
Yeah, it's funny talking about the thinking. It's like that, the thinking, I've always been such a thinker and such a problem solver and such, and it's like an ongoing journey of trying to let go of the thinking a bit.
I'm not saying I've got it cracked by any means. You listen to me most weeks talking about things.
Yeah, but and I know that the first thing that I do is it's almost like that an idea bubbles up, or whatever you want to say, it comes from wherever,
Yeah,
the ether, and then the brain just wants to jump in straight away and do the hows, and you know, it gets excited about the idea, and then it's like, and it's always like you have to, like, I don't know, you got to let it be there, but be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to give it some space. Let's create
yeah.
something, and you know, let that be the thinking.
Yeah, and
But
just kind of let it settle and
yeah,
let something deeper within us kind of give us the guidance instead of, you know, I was talking about this. I did the conversation with my previous coach Emma the other day, and it was very much like that's what she helped me to do more and more, is just to slow that process down, because there's part of me that loves moving quick and thinks everything's urgent. I mean, we're the same on this. Everything's urgent. We have to do it today. We have to know the answer. We have to get it done. Like, we're already too late, kind of thing. And it's like, whoa, that's just programming that really trips us
yeah,
up, isn't it?
yeah.
So yeah, being able to be aware of that and really slow down is such a precious thing.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's so powerful, and I think that, like, well, I mean, you just made me think then of, in the last few weeks, I've suddenly got really into the idea of rest. I did a yoga nidra immersion a few weeks ago, and I've been ever since really exploring and pondering how, like, real rest and how little rest I do, if you can call it doing. It's not doing,
Yeah,
but because
yeah,
I'm constantly thinking, and so to even that I might think I'm sitting down having a coffee, it's like on my mind is there's no rest there, and it's like, and
yeah,
actually to, or even at work yesterday, I had that thing of I'm sitting down to eat my lunch, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to look at on my phone? What am I going to listen to? What am I going to consume? And it's like, stop, just
yeah,
focus on your lunch. It's just in front of you. Can you eat your lunch in a restful way?
yeah.
And
So
yeah,
interesting.
that spaciousness is so important and such a challenge
Yeah,
because
and
we're so trained.
because especially, you know, in this modern world where we are endlessly curious about things, but you know, there is no end to what we can read and look at. You know, 30 years ago, we didn't have all this stimulation. So it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I could read a book and then that's it. That's all I've got. Or talk to somebody who's with me having, you know, food or what have you. And then now it's sort of like, oh yeah, you know, it's this kind of artificial need to be constantly stimulated that
yeah.
we've been trained into as well, which is good to untrain ourselves for sure.
Yeah, and because we have access to so many amazing things as well,
Oh,
like
it's so
people creating
interesting.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
incredible things. There's so many rabbit holes to go down, and
so
it's a
many.
delight. But I think that there's something to be said for having the awareness of when you're choosing to go down a rabbit hole, and you know, it's not to say you can't let yourself do it, because it is can be incredibly joyful and uplifting, and but it's knowing that you also need that time to rest and to not be doing that, and to
Yeah,
let the magic, your connection to the divine, come through the rest
yeah,
and the spaciousness.
totally. And then I've had this thing recently that I call radical rest, because that's where I'm absolutely choosing not to do stuff, and I'm choosing to rest my system in whatever way that makes sense, because it's almost like I'm so restless, I know something's coming, and the only way it's going to make itself known is if I just sit with it. You know,
Yeah,
so it's a conscious choice to not do stuff and not take action and not be productive, rather than you know, any external or uh, artificial decision. And it can go on for a while, you know, because these things take time and I'm constantly learning to be more patient.
yeah, yeah. It's so funny how we're like, okay, 15 minutes, I'll do that insight timer, yoga nidra,
Yeah,
and then I'm back to it. And it's that whole idea of resting, not so that you're more productive afterwards, just resting to rest, and that,
yeah,
you know, giving yourself as much time as that needs. And yeah,
yeah.
it's a
And
whole
it
huge
leads
shift.
on to another topic that you and I talk about a lot, is like, can we do things just because they're fun? Can we do things just for the joy of it? We're not doing it for our business, we're not doing it for other people, we're not doing it to sell,
Yeah,
we're not doing it for any great purpose, we're not doing it because we're getting a certificate in it. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like we're doing it because we're doing it,
yeah.
and allowing ourselves to be in that joyful creative flow, especially for yourself. You know, you love being surrounded by color and paint and images and all of that kind of stuff, and yeah, letting it be not okay, but it's so vital that we have those
Yeah.
activities and those periods where we're going, I'm doing this just for the fun of it.
Yeah. That sort of brings it back to the Creatively Fit coaching course that I was doing, because it taught me so much about how the creative process mirrors life, in that, you start with anything that comes up as you're creating on the canvas is mirrored in life. So like all of the kind of the limiting beliefs, but talking about well, what's the purpose of this? What's the end goal? What's it going to be? I mean, in one of the months, we did a thing where we painted over a painting 10 times, and it was like so liberating to know that you were going to, it's going to be gone. And, that whole idea of letting go of things having to be productive and needing to be for something purposeful and useful and having an impact. And it's so, we're so trained that, it's the grind culture, isn't it? That we've got to be, to be a worthwhile human, you have to be contributing, you have to be all of these things. And the kind of undoing of that is huge. And it's so challenging in the world that we live in, I think that. Yes. And it
so you did Whitney Freya's course, and then
yes. And then what happened
after that? did you not do a summit about intuition?
Yes, I did. So then I can't remember if that was, I think that must have been after the CCFC. I started working with another coach, Deborah Epstein, I think was her surname. And she basically was coaching people through to do summits, which I think that was the sort of system she was using with all of her coachees at the time, which I didn't realize when I signed up to her. I probably wouldn't have signed up if I was like, what, I can't do that.
You never read anything properly.
No, exactly. I just jump in because I'm like, yay, this sounds great. Exactly. But so she guided me into hosting a summit, an online, I think it was 5 days of, I interviewed a series of speakers, and I chose to do it on the theme of intuition, and it was called The Art of the Intuitive Mind, and it was about intuition and creativity and how people use their creativity to connect to their intuition. And I absolutely loved it. And I was like, I'm going to do one every year. And have I done another one? No. but it was so good. And it was so inspiring and interesting talking to different speakers and their experiences of intuition and looking at what commonalities are, and so much of what we were talking about, of the spaciousness of that being such a common theme. It's almost like quieting the mind in order to make space for the intuition to expand. And one of the people interviewed in that was I'm having a name blank. She's absolutely wonderful. I don't think she's had a baby, so I think she's not coaching at the moment. I'm having a name blank, and I would like to put it in the notes underneath.
It's fine. We'll find out later. It's a new moon, everybody. It's like my brain's all over the place.
Yes, it's fine. But what had been sort of bubbling along since the Creatively Fit coaching and through the Art of the Intuitive Mind was like, wouldn't it be absolutely fantastic to have a space that I could be, it was like a creative space, but also a space for a sort of a spa space, a rest space, like let's join together all my favorite things of, hot tub, sauna, creativity, like just a beautiful space. And anyway, I sort of accidentally signed up to work with this fabulous embodiment coach. She had like a Christmas offer, and I was like, well, that's it. I think I said, I'll send it to my list. And she was like, well, why don't you have a free half an hour? And then that led me to a series of sessions with her, which was, again, a hugely sort of pivotal point, that she basically, this dream that had been sort of percolating, it came up in a session, and she basically said, well, why aren't you doing that? I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm not doing that. Like I could do that. And it was such a sort of moment of, look, I'd put this limit on myself of like, no, that's not going to happen. And
I got a dream, and it's going to stay as a dream up here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, you could actually do that thing, right? And you're like, really?
Really? Yeah. What? Yeah. So that then sort of, well, basically that opened up another pathway, and led me to start looking for houses again, because I said our house had fallen through, we weren't moving to the countryside. And about, maybe it was a year later, like I'm so bad with the time, it's like time is like, oh, anyway, 8 months, a year later, I found a ridiculous property, having just about given up. I was like, I'm not going to find anything for the money that we have. But we found a property that was like 12 minutes from our old house out in the countryside, and it has the most unbelievably beautiful sanctuary garden, and it's like the perfect space for creating a creative sanctuary.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And I think this is another thing that is kind of interesting to talk about a little bit is, you know, the whole time you were kind of, I want this house and I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know where it is. I don't know which house it is. You know, all this brain stuff that was very much, you know, in your mind. It was like, and then we have to do all this work to our old house first. And it was all about, here's the blocks. And then it seemed like, you know, all of a sudden, Romilly then messages me with like, I found the house and sent me these photos and this video of the swimming pond. And I was like, what's just happened? Like last time we had a coffee, which wasn't that long ago, it was full of like, here's all the reasons I can't make this happen. And then it was like, oh, by the way, I think I found it. Here's some photos and a video of it. And I was, what?
Yeah, and so funny because I spent all that time thinking. It's like trying to solve it with my mind. And I could have just sat back and rested.
Because just be making art, enjoying yourself.
Exactly. It was just around the corner. And it's so funny. We've talked before, haven't we, about how the things that you often think you want, they're already there, they're already in existence. That beautiful man is already there. He's already out in the world. You
didn't have to build this house.
Exactly.
The house existed, but you weren't matched up with it yet.
Yeah, totally. And it's so interesting because it's also that thing of like somebody else was creating it for me. And you know, she was the people that we bought from. Selena was an absolutely fantastic gardener, and the garden is completely her baby. And it's like, and it's like that. It's so interesting, the kind of interconnected web that you don't realize, but it's always. But yes, so. Oh yeah, but what I would like to say though about the whole process. So I'm here now. We've been here for a year and a bit, and my art studio is just about finished.
Yeah,
it's like
we won't talk about that.
yeah. Like when I say finished, it's still got a long way to go. Builders have left, so that's like yay. But it's so interesting because it can make it sound, oh, it's so simple. Like ding, there's the house, ding, and it's like it's never like that. Obviously, there's so much thinking going on. There's so much there's so many realizations of the layers of beliefs, the limiting beliefs that I have about how things have to be, what things need to be like. And there's that continuous stripping those back and trying to get to like what the real core of what I actually desire. So trying to get to that is a whole thing in itself. And part of me sometimes wonders whether will I ever get to that? Are all of my desires always layered in beliefs that skew them? I remember doing it. I had an image that came to me once about you know, like a prism. If you put light through a prism, it can refract it and it goes in a different direction. And I feel like the prism is like your beliefs. So your desire comes in and it goes through the prism, and then it goes off in a different direction because it gets skewed. And I feel as though that's still there, but it's like I guess I've just got better at bringing my awareness to it. So and
I think this is common. I mean, this is why people hire coaches as well, is because it's almost like we get to the edge of what we're comfortable with, and in order to create something new, we have to stretch into it and become somebody different. And that, you know, when we're on the edge, you know, I did my the new moon guided thing yesterday, and I'm like, we're on a threshold. I love that word. We're on a threshold, and we can feel it, and we haven't yet stepped over, but actually we can choose not to step over, just to stay where we are. But actually there's something pulling us forward or guiding us internally, or I've outgrown everything I'm doing, I've done before, and I need something new, or you know, wherever this kind of this guidance and inspiration comes for each individual person. And then, you know, I remember when you found your house, and there was the thing of like, could I really live there? You know, it's everything I dream of. And then that can be like overwhelming. And then when you're in it, and I sort of came to yours, and I don't know if it's the first time I visited, but I swam in your pond on like May Day or something. And it was just, well, I'm going to enjoy you being here. I don't have to do all the maintenance for it. But there was, you know, you were talking about sort of, the integration of this is actually our reality now. And it, you physically come out of one place. I mean, it's only down the road, but it's you physically out of one home that you've been in for a while as a family and plonk yourself into a different one, and everything is different, even though it's not that far away. And it takes a while to recalibrate. That's the phrase I'm getting used to. It's like we have to recalibrate to the circumstances, and that can take a while.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I'm still recalibrating. I feel like, how come I get to be here? There's a lot of that, and there's obviously a lot of, it's a different responsibility of holding this space. And yeah, there's just, it was like moving in, stepping into being different people. It's like,
Totally.
we like that, got to be a different version. And as much as you can kind of envision the future version of yourself, you never really know what it's going to be. And well, I've forgotten what the language that somebody I was listening to the other day. Oh, it's the glamorizing. So you can glamorize your future self and what it's going to be like, but actually you want to be like, in order to really be it, you have to, kind of like strip that out, because you're still you're still the same person. There's still all the busy things going on, but then you've got this.
We still have to do the food shopping.
Exactly.
Until we're wealthy enough to pay somebody else to do it. But and I think it's a similar thing on a very different scale. It's like for ages I've been watching lots of people on YouTube doing stuff, and it's like one day I'm going to have a YouTube, my future self will be somebody who, and I was like, it's not that difficult, Claire. It's that kind of thing. And then but kind of waiting until it was, oh my God, it's today's the day. Like I'd set up the page before Christmas, and then the first day the schools were back, which never happens to me. It's generally about now I wake up, and it was today's the day. Start reaching out and asking people if they want to come and have a conversation with you. And it's just been really lovely to get into that. I'm the sort of person who does have a YouTube channel, and I do have this, so it's like, oh great, okay, so I am being this version of her because I've done the technical bits to make it happen, and I've I set up a link so that people could book in, and all this very practical stuff that comes along with, like you say, it's not just I glamorously sit around and become a YouTube star. It's like I'm starting the momentum where you go, there's very few people watching or showing up or much happening, but in a year's time I'll be really happy that this bit I got it started, because we can keep waiting for everything to line up. But then there is a time at which where I think, we talk about this a lot as well between us. It's like, is it procrastination, or are we waiting for the real inner, oh my God, yes, it's time kind of thing? And that's a very subtle distinction, and I'm still navigating my way through that.
I think that that it's really difficult to know. I mean, it's like, am I self-sabotaging and giving myself excuses as to why I'm not doing it now, or is it because it isn't the right time, it's fully aligned? And it's maybe we'll never be able to tell the difference completely, but I don't know, I sort of feel like when something is the right time, you feel more, maybe you've just got more energy for it. Do you know what I mean?
I think so. And I think these decisions get easier and easier the more we do them. But I think definitely the giving ourselves space to really tune in. And I know there's a woman that I listen to a lot on, Sarah Landon, who's a conscious spiritual teacher, author and stuff through YouTube, and she talks about a choiceless choice, doing things when you can't not do it, rather than, oh, I have to do this because it's Monday, or I should be doing whatever. And it's like, following the energy, which I think is a beautiful thing. It's like, I know I'm going to do that at some point, and actually right now it doesn't feel like it's a definite yes inside. And her other thing, which is a real challenge, is like, if there's nothing guiding you, there's nothing for you to do, kind of urgently. And it's just like, really?
I really like that.
Allowing yourself to wait until you feel that, which is again part of the
knowing if it's coming from like I should do this, then it's like, no, who's saying that? It's like, that's the voice that's telling you you're behind. And it's like, I mean, I know that you can look at the other side and be like, well, we all have that you know, well, maybe we don't all, but in different ways we will have things like, I quite like hiding. So I'm like, oh, I'm quite nice and having a nice little time of my own, and it's a bit scary going out into the world and doing the thing. So I know that I can be a bit like, I'll just hide here and not do that. But then when the time is right, I'll be so excited I won't be able to do anything except share it. So
Yeah.
so coming from that should be, but yeah, and there is the balance of, you want to do things that put you slightly outside your comfort zone, but just not all the time. I think that's what it
Yeah.
is.
And then give yourself time to integrate and recalibrate. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've moved to do something scary, therefore I can, it's almost like the hiding comes afterwards. It's like, and now my nervous system has to chill out, and I want to drink tea, and I want to sit
Yeah.
under a blanket because I've done something and I've stretched myself, and now I want to kind of recalibrate instead of I was talking about something the other day and just going, when I had to go through the whole recovery from addiction journey, and I read about the 12 steps and all the inner work I was like, oh, I don't want to do, I can't do all that inner work. And then for the last 11 years, I've been doing so much inner work. And then it's like, well, it's the outer work now that needs doing. And I'm like, I'm really comfortable. I'm really comfortable doing stuff that most people avoid because I've been doing it for years. I'm going, you want me to look at my deepest, darkest things? Okay, I'll get my journal out. Or even talk about it in public, but then it's sort of like, but now it's a different energy that I need in order to show up in a different way. Yeah.
I think I feel that I can get like, well, at the moment I've recognized blocks around, like, I get afraid that, what if it's not the thing I want to do? What if it's not the right decision? What if it's like, or what if it's overwhelming, it's too much, or I don't know, or someone's already done it, like all those sort of little voices coming in, and it's like just giving myself the time and space is powerful. It's like,
yeah. And I know, when I was doing a lot of coaching previously, and a lot of clients come and they go, it's this or this, A or B, yes or no. And they're like, well, or what's the right thing to do? And it's like, there's just a choice to make, and like you say, if you tune into, does it feel like a yes? Because as you're going down the journey, you'll work out whether or not it is. So I started off these conversations going, oh, it's about the arc of life and how it follows through. And now I've done sort of 11 or 12 like that. And I'm like, actually, I want to talk about things in a slightly different way now. But I know that because I've done the things, and I was like, who when I talk to them am I getting real tingles for, and I'm really excited about what they're saying, and it's like, oh, let me do more of that then. But I know that because I've done some of it, and not to say the others were wrong, because I was like, okay, this feels like a great thing and it would be enjoyable for me and the people involved and of use to the audience. And now it's sort of like, oh, okay, what's the next iteration of this? Which comes on what I've already done or what you've already done. So it's like, the next iteration is perhaps something slightly different.
It's like not being rigid in that's what I said I was going to do, therefore I'm only doing that, and I have to do that at the expense of everything. Of like, if it doesn't feel right or something happens, I've still got to do that. It's like,
I can't change my mind, I can't pivot, I can't go backwards, I can't. You really can. This whole thing about keep going and don't give up. And I'm like, sometimes you really should give up, because we're just doing stuff because we feel like we should keep going on the same path, and actually we're like, well, I knew ages ago it wasn't right. Well, okay, but we're taught again, like, you've made a decision, you've made your bed, you better lie in it, kind of thing. Which I had a lot, when I was thinking of leaving my nursing career. It's you're giving up all of that, and I was like, well, because I don't want to do it for another 30 years. Like, I'm not giving it up. I've done it for quite a long time. Do you know what I mean? I put 25 good years of my life into it. It's not like it was an overnight decision.
It's funny, because I think for a lot of people to the outside, they'll be like, oh, but you're giving up the security and it's like, no, I'm just stepping into the next thing. It's
well,
like,
and I was in my early mid-30s, and people said, well, what about your pension? And I was like, what about my life though? What about the next 30 years of what I actually have to do day to day? Like, that's more uppermost in my mind right now than my pension. Although today, obviously, my pension's quite important.
It's coming back to the grind training as well, isn't it? We are the grind culture, because we're so conditioned to believe that that's the way you have to do things. That's where the safety is. That's the way you do it, and that's the way you live your life. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
really?
but
Does it have to
actually
be?
something that's coming to me as well is that often other people are more scared for us than we are scared ourselves.
Yeah,
You know, they're like, because they don't know what we know, they're not feeling what we feel, and
yeah,
from then it looks like a totally crazy thing to do, and you're like, but they don't know what I know. Like, I've got all of these skills and all of these contacts, and
yeah,
here's my inner guidance. But from outside, it can look ridiculous, or it's about, their own capacity for doing risky things or things that are
yeah,
different or adventurous. One of my friends is a great one for going, yeah, but what about this and this? And I'm like, that's just a reflection of her own anxiety. It's got
yeah,
nothing to do with
exactly.
me. I'm
And
like,
it quite,
I have thought about those things, and it's a risk worth taking.
yeah.
Like,
It's almost like it could very well be the things that they kind of almost wish they're in your position of, like, is there something that they aren't happy with, but they've decided that the risks outweigh that's what sways the decision not to do it because it's too
yeah,
risky, but then they know beneath that's what they want to
yeah.
do.
And we get projections of their fear or their anxiety, or just, some people I know love living a regular life where they do the same thing a lot of the time, and I'm like,
Yeah,
good for you. But
yeah,
it's not for me.
yeah. Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that earlier, of how it feels like time is speeding up, whether you believe it really is or not. But that she was saying that she read something that said if you do, like, variety is what makes time slow down because you're doing different things all the time. But it's so hard to do that because you kind of, like, I have variety in my weeks in the sense that I work 2 days a week in the music shop. I'm like 3 days a week I'm at home, but usually doing Pilates at the moment for my bad back, which but it's like, even though I have variety, I'm still doing the same things. And, like, it's actually really hard work to give yourself so much variety that you slow time down. So maybe that's a goal for the next month, see if I can do a completely different thing every day of the month, see whether it lasts for ages.
Yeah, yeah, who knows? But yeah,
Yeah,
and there's always a thing of, time moves slowly when you're bored to death. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, the way to make time go really slowly is to do really boring things you don't want to do, in
yeah,
my experience, where you're looking at
yeah.
the clock going, seriously, it's only been an hour and a half. Like,
Yeah.
when I had my old job, and we had the fire, and I had to sit in an office and do stuff there, which is like, oh my God, this is the longest day of my life,
Isn't it unfair that they're the long days? It's like, why can't the days
I
doing the things
know,
that you
I
love be
know.
the long
It's a
ones?
crazy thing. Why can't the ones where I'm full of joy be like 100 hours long, and the ones where I'm
Yeah.
bored feel like 10 minutes? There's something wrong in the universe.
Yeah, who designed that?
Who decided this? Oh my goodness. So yeah, so looping back to your summit. So what did you learn about yourself? Well, what did you learn about yourself from hosting the videos, and also what did you learn about your intuition? And I mean, I know some of the answers to this, but the audience don't. And how did it confirm some of the things that you'd been feeling about your own intuitive gift?
Um, well, I think that one of the things I can't like give you a specific example, but I'm not very good with specific examples ever.
It's all
It's like
good.
time, specific examples, remembering things, names, no. But no,
Romilly's not a detail person. She's a big
I'm
vision,
not.
colorful creative. It's all good.
It was that such a sense of recognizing, of listening to other people's stories of how their intuition showed up, made me realize more where I could feel my intuition in my body, or things that I did which were actually intuitively led, or that I would be very much, no, I know that it's not a thought process
Yeah,
evaluating it, even though there are loads of thoughts all the time.
yeah.
It was so there was that.
So kind of
um
trusting yourself and your own signals
yes,
more. Yeah.
exactly. But also then we were talking the other day, and you and I talked about this the other day, of some sort of intuitive moments which I hadn't really sort of I just hadn't thought too much about them. For example, the evening when I met my husband, I had a boyfriend at the time, I'm sorry to say, a lovely boyfriend. Um, and I moved to a new flat in Bristol, and a friend of a friend had said, come and meet us at the pub. We go every Friday, and there's a group of us, it's really fun, and it's near your new flat. So I was like, okay, I'll go down and see her on the Friday night. And I went into the pub, I was at the bar ordering a drink, and I turned around, and the person walked in who is now my husband. And from across the room, I was like, oh, he's a bit tasty. And I had, oh no, I better not talk to him because I have a boyfriend. I was like, I'm going to avoid that person. Anyway, I got my drink, went outside, and typically he was sitting on the table with my friend. And so that was sort of, but yeah, so previously been like, I hadn't really thought about how there was a sense of intuition and knowing within me about that connection with him before I'd even spoken to him, literally just seen him. And so that was, yeah, there were things like that after doing the summit, after the intuitive mind, it helped me to recognize intuitive hits that had happened in my past as well.
Yeah, so it almost like it illuminated what to look for, and therefore it wasn't useful for, it wasn't just useful for like now and moving forward. It was like, oh, I understand how actually I have been following this, but I hadn't really realized. Because I think there's a lot of things, because we talk about intuition a lot now, and you know, this myth that women are intuitive and men are not, and it's like, no, it's an innate human thing. And you know, it's, but it's also a skill to tune into it that we are quite often tuned out of, because we're taught to use our brains for decision making. And so there's definitely a journey later in life, you know, wherever it happens. I mean, I consider myself fortunate in that I worked in nursing and I worked in pediatrics, so my patients are tiny a lot of the time and cannot speak, cannot tell me what's going on. So intuition was a massive, massive part of, I'm getting tingles down my legs now. That's my intuition speaking to me right now. You know, that was a massive part of my professional work, was working out what was going on when you've got very little to go on. And some of it's, you know, like literally tuning into my body, and my body would go, I don't know why, but I'm not very happy with them. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then when I was a junior sister on a ward in Bath, children's ward, a lot of the doctors worked with me for a while, and they got to the stage where if Claire's worried, we all need to be slightly worried, because I can't always explain it. That's the thing. They were like, well, what's their observations and what's this and what are their measurements? And I'm like, they're this, but I'm also telling you, my body is telling me this. And it was really interesting that I was like, I have to vocalize this, because if I don't say it, we won't be looking at this child carefully enough, or we might miss something really important. And so it was really interesting to be able to use it in that way. But you know, that's not common for everybody. A lot of people, we're taught, to think things through, to analyze, to use logic, to, you know, and to distrust everything that happens below here, basically.
Completely, to you know, say, oh, that's nonsense, you're crazy if you just, you know, it's what you just mean, you're feeling it. It's like, okay, ridiculous.
And I'm just thinking of another story that was so brilliant. Was we had a coffee one day, and you were taking your saxophone in to be repaired. And I was saying, I get these downloads sometimes which are totally clear phrases about go here and look for this, and it's like, okay, like when I got my job, go to their website and see if they've got any jobs. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't even looking for a job, and then I ended up working there nearly 3 years. It was amazing, the clearest bit of guidance I've ever had, really. But so was move to Bristol, see how it goes. And then we were talking about, I said, quite often it's tiny little breadcrumbs. It's like, go and read this, walk around this corner, go to Sainsbury's now instead of later. Okay, you know, something's going to happen that wouldn't have happened if I'd gone later. And so we were talking about this as we had a coffee. And then, you took your saxophone in for repair. And something amazing happened, right?
So I was standing at the counter, and I'd walked into the shop. I walked in, I hadn't been in there for years, and I walked in and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to work in a place like this? Like, I just like the smell of it. Some people would probably be like, it's gross. It's the smell of like old musty instruments, but I liked it. Anyway, I was booking my sax in, and they said, they asked me how quickly I'd want it back, and then they had a bit of a conversation between themselves around, well, it depends when we get the new person. And I stood there thinking like, oh, I wonder if they're looking for somebody. And I had that real moment of, I could either say nothing, just put my sax and walk away, and then maybe, you know, maybe they'll put a job out, you know, I just like, but then I was like, no, this is ridiculous. I've just had this conversation with Claire. It's like, you have to say something. So I said, oh, are you looking for somebody? And they said, well, yes, we're looking for an apprentice. And I was like, oh, and then I was like quiet for a minute. So I was like, well, what would that person need to be able to do? And they said that they're looking for a brass instrument repairer, which I play the sax, and that's woodwind. But So I was like, oh, and if the brass instrument player, they said, would need to be able to play a brass instrument. And I was like, oh, I can't play a brass instrument. And then I went quiet again for a little minute, and then I was like, well, when you say play, what do you mean? And they said, well, you'd need to be able to play at least a scale on a trumpet. And I said, well, if I come back in 2 weeks and I've learnt to, when I collect my saxophone, if I've learnt to play a scale on the trumpet, would you consider me for the position? And yes, basically that's what happened. And so I'm working there still 2 days a week, repairing brass instruments, which is such fun. And it's just so funny because it was, I mean, it's so different to anything else I was doing. I've never even considered it as a possible job, and I love it. I get so much from it. I've learned so much. I absolutely love getting dents out of bells on trombones and trumpets. Yeah, and it's like I never would have done that, and if I hadn't followed the breadcrumb and actually had that in my awareness. And I do think that having that conversation between us, if we hadn't had that conversation, I could have quite easily stayed within my comfort zone and not said anything to them, and then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, which I love.
Yeah, or taking your saxophone in and go, oh God, there's a delay because they haven't got an apprentice.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, actually, here's the thing. And I think this is where there's another delicate balance between like having really clear intentions that are full of detail, which we're guided to do by some people, and also going, but I couldn't have ever set the intention of working in a hands-on science centre at the age of 55 because I didn't know that was a job to start with.
Exactly.
And so it's letting ourselves be guided to things we couldn't ever have thought of.
Yeah.
And being open to how that might show up.
Yeah, and you have to have that openness, and that, like, when you're totally caught up in your mind, and you know, if I was totally distracted with what I had to go and do next, I needed to get this dropped off quickly, I've got to go and do a million things. It's like there wouldn't be space for that recognition to come in that, oh, I'd like to do this, and yeah, so again, it comes back to that it's like connection to your body, letting go of the thoughts and making space and sort of openness.
Yeah, and just thinking about, you know, when we look back, there's so many pieces. So there's almost like the thing happened with you, and then we didn't know each other at that point, but there's something that, oh, I'm looking at this, and then, oh, she looks interesting, and then we have a coffee, and then we have a conversation about intuition, and then you take your saxophone in, and because we've been talking about intuition, you follow the clue, and do you know what I mean? It's almost like and then you've also done your tele summit, so you know you're really wired into all of that, and so it's almost like none of the pieces would have happened without the previous pieces, but we didn't know that they were all part of the journey.
You're making me think of another story that I told you the other day, which is this one feels more like that I was part of somebody else's intuitive experience. But so when I first moved to Bristol, I lodged on the top of the house of some friends of my parents, and I knew one friend in Bristol from school. I didn't know anyone else, and it was the yearly Harbour Fest, and I basically so at my friend's house, at my parents' friend's house, I had met one person similar age to me who they knew who was a musician, because the guy Jonathan who I lived with is a musician. I still play with him now. His name was Adam. I'd met him very briefly. And anyway, I had decided that I wanted to go out to, there was a blues night at the Old Duke, which is a real famous blues and jazz pub in Bristol. And I was going to go on my own because I didn't have anyone to go with. And it's like, oh, this is so like, can I go on my own? It's like, okay, I'm going to go. Went on my own and started talking to somebody there called Tan, who was really lovely. I can't remember whether he was playing in the band or I think he might have been actually. And anyway, I started chatting to him, and he was like, oh, I said, you know, I've just moved here, I don't know anyone. He said, oh, I'm going to be going to the Harbour Fest tomorrow with some friends. Do you want to meet up? And you can come meet them. So I did that. I was like, yay, I went out on my own, really proud of myself for doing the awkward thing. And the next day I went down to the Harbour Fest, met up with him. He walked me to meet his friends, and lo and behold, one of his friends in the group was Adam, who I had previously met at the house where I was lodging. So that was a crazy coincidence then. And then I started dating Tan, and we dated for a while. And the most hilarious part of his story was that when he came to my flat, he said to me, oh, I helped to decorate this flat, and if you look above your bed, there's an X marked in white paint. And so there it was. It was like the most crazy thing of like, you know, he just, and it felt, you know, he would painting that room, he would never have realized that he would actually end up dating the person who sleeps in that bed.
I mean, X marks the spot. I
I
mean,
know. It's just
seriously,
hilarious.
that's so funny. And
So
actually,
funny.
something I need to share that's just happened today is, so yesterday I was looking at stuff and going, I really need to change the copy on my website because it's like 18 months old, and I didn't want to update it until I was like more certain what I was doing and what I was talking about. And then I was like, oh, I need to send Kerry a message, and who does my web stuff, and just ask her if she's got time and if she wants to update the content and tweak some pieces for me. And I had a conversation with her this morning, and she went, you'll never guess what, Claire. She said, I was literally talking to my friend Elaine yesterday, just saying, right, I'm ready to get back and do some more stuff online and get some work in. And then my phone pinged and it was you going, hey, have you got any time to do my website? So yeah, it's still happening to us. So literally we're at the last few minutes. That's gone so quick, it's ridiculous. So is there anything else you want to share that you feel you haven't shared, or that would be of value to the audience about intuition, synchronicities, magic, following your vision?
I'm sure when we log off, I'll be like, oh, there's this and this and this, but no, it's lovely to talk about intuition again, and sort of, it's always good to remind yourself, isn't it, of that it's there and that you can tune into it, and you know,
Yeah,
just have to be
totally. And that, you know, whatever we want to call it, intuition, synchronicities, magic, miracles, things showing up when we've asked it, like, this is all normal. And again, we're trained to go, oh no, it's just, you're just imagining it. There's no, you know, there's no such thing as synchronicities, and there's no relevance to these things, and there's no, and it's like, that's all about beliefs. If we believe there isn't, or we believe there is, and it's like, so if I go around believing in magic and synchronicities, my life's a hell of a lot more fun than believing it isn't.
Absolutely.
Right. So but actually, you know, there's science to back it up as well now, which is all good, but we haven't got time to go into that. So so oh my God, Romilly, it's always a delight to talk to you. And I'm very glad I reached out to you on Instagram, and that we've created this lovely friendship that we've got now. What I'll do is I'll pull the links for Romilly under the recordings on Spotify and YouTube. But yeah, where do you hang out most online?
Well, actually, we haven't
or actually she hangs out most with me in a coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really not very online at the moment, but probably the best thing to do is to sign up to my mailing list for the incredibly occasional emails that I send, because I've really gone off social media currently. That's a whole nother hour.
We can circle back and talk about that another time. So yes, I'll post Romilly's website below, and yes, very intermittent but always beautifully colorful emails come through from Romilly, and I'm sure, I mean, you're in a process of kind of reinventing yourself in your life. So when there's something to say and when things are more complete, then that will be the stage where you go, right, I really want to talk about this now because it's complete and I'm ready. Whereas you're still in the kind of the building phase, you know, you've still got a garden that's full of mud and an almost complete studio. So yeah, you're still in the winter process, really.
Exactly, and it's exactly what we were talking about before, of like giving it the space. And instead of following, because I could be like, oh, I should be sending an email at least every month, like, you know, there's that should there. It's like, no, I'm just following what I'm feeling. So that's where I am.
Totally, that's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you everybody for watching and listening, and I will post another video very soon. Bye everyone.